Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of Aloe and Ace podcast. I am the allosexual Skylar.
And I'm the asexual Jessie.
Jessie, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
Doing good. We just got back from a vacation with the 6 kiddos to Colorado. Nothing like being in a 9+ hour drive with 6 kids.
Yeah, it was an adventure.
Sure was. Like the beginning of every episode, we just want to give some warnings that this is a sexual-based podcast on sexuality. So we can discuss sex. There might be some other trigger warnings like SA, self-harm, and stuff like that. I'll usually put it in the description if we discuss anything like that.
Right. And also, we are not professionals. We are speaking mainly from our experience and what we have learned over time from the community so far.
And another thing is that our relationship happens to be male, female, allosexual, asexual, with the asterisks of Jessie being panromantic, but we are not trying to exclude anyone. And if you have any pointers or anything that we can correct, let us know.
Yep, we're happy to do that. Speaking of that, do we have any clarifications to make this episode?
The only clarification that I wanted to make personally, which wasn't something that someone brought up, was in, I think, the 3rd episode, 3rd or 4th, I discussed the ways in which I would touch Jessie nightly in a good touch, safe touch for her. And I made the comment that there were times where I would be like, I need to go take care of myself. But I wanted to clarify that that hasn't happened since she came out as asexual. If anything, that was a while back where, you know, maybe there was some hope that things could progress possibly, or, you know, maybe my mind was more on a sexual nature. But now it certainly is not. So just wanted to clarify that.
Which is interesting because I just learned that today. When you told me, I didn't know that you haven't done that at all after the fact. So did you know I didn't know?
No, I just didn't want it to come off like, oh, he's touching her body and getting so turned on. Poor guy has to go take care of himself, because that is certainly not the case.
Or maybe like I'm asleep and you're touching my body and then going and doing that. That also does not, I mean, that sounds a little interesting as well.
Also not great and also not happening. So
No, it's not. There was another clarification that I would like to make.
Oh, go for it.
Well, I don't know if it's a clarification, just more of an understanding. Moving forward, we would like to, instead of saying the LGBTQIA community, we would like to say the queer community. We want to make sure that we are inclusive, and we feel that that's a very positive name to be using moving forward.
From what I've read, it's people are empowering that, taking it back, and it is an umbrella term for all.
Yes.
So not even just lesbian, gay, bisexual, any of that. It's even gender non-conformity, I guess.
Right. So we just wanted to set that straight and let that be known.
She keeps hitting the mic.
I'm sorry.
She is a hand talker.
It's true, I am.
Now, we will say that we will do that for this episode. And if anyone wants to grab their pitchforks and tell us absolutely you cannot do that, then we won't do it. But
we do know that there are some mixed feelings out there for it. But overall, it does seem like a pretty positive thing. Yeah. And I love this whole taking it back. I do love that.
Yes.
And I do also consider myself queer. So, yeah.
So one thing that we want to do typically at the beginning of every episode is to go over some questions that have been asked.
Yes, wait, I do have one more thing to say.
Of course you do.
Before we start with the questions. I just want to say that it has only been a week since we recorded the last one and released it, the last episode. And I have kind of felt sad because
it feels like it's been forever.
It does. I got used to doing them every few days, and so we really had to wait. And also we were on vacation with our children. So
yes.
there wasn't an option really, but I missed everyone, and I missed talking to you about this stuff, Skylar.
Yeah. And I mean, we talk every day about this stuff.
Yes.
But as far as like releasing stuff to the public,
Right.
It was difficult to be like, let's not do another one.
Right. And just getting messages from folks is so appreciated. So it's been a little bit hard to wait because I really appreciate when people are reaching out.
And this podcast is growing every day, and our promise is that we will respond as much as humanly possible. I don't know if there will ever be a time when it's not possible. So don't feel like you can't reach out. And we are on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Tumblr.
Like pretty much throw
Twitter,
a dart out there and we're on it. And also we hope that you don't ever feel dumb asking us something.
Yes.
Because it's just not the case. It's not how it is. So please reach out.
All right. Question time?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So this person asked a few questions. The first one was, how did Skylar get to the point where he didn't view sex as the ultimate form of intimacy? I will say that for me, our foundation of our relationship wasn't based on us meeting and forming a sexual relationship.
No.
And even though we were single, there was still a long chunk of time before we actually had sex. Now, that's not to say that I wasn't wanting to.
Yeah.
But I think that there was just this level of respect of like leaving relationships or, being separated from relationships, knowing that marriages were ending and that we were in that process of everything, to not just like jump into the relationship and let that, I guess, cloud.
Right, let that guide us. I don't think we let anything like that guide us at all. As a matter of fact, I think that we very much so started off as very platonic, good friends.
And then also like going, okay, this seems a bit too good to be true. So what if it's not?
Yeah.
And so then it was like, okay, our feelings are growing stronger. We like actually really love each other, and our core personalities, everything matches. And so then it was like, okay, this is a relationship. Now, I will admit, like I said in previous episodes, I didn't have what I would say was a very mature thought process on sex. I still had, my own healing and processes to go through, from leaving a fundamental religion, patriarchy, the thoughts of like sex in a healthy relationship should be frequent.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I've gone through the years, that's when I've started actually getting more, I guess, mature with my thought process. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Like if this isn't your thought process, that you're not mature. It's more of like my own self-maturity, self-growth.
Your own self-evolution.
My own self-evolution that I'm tying to my own level of maturity, or what I value as being mature. And as we've discussed, the frequency of sex and things like that, as Jessie was trying to figure out her sexuality, was changing. And I really had to view, it's been a couple year process of this evolution, where I made all the stupid ass comments about parking lots and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so Jesse would talk to me about why that doesn't feel good and why intimacy doesn't mean sex, even though I try to be like, but it's not the same. And she'd be like, but this is the intimacy. I see it as very healthy and very intimate, but you're discounting it.
It was so hard for me to explain to him because I didn't know that I was asexual, and I was trying to understand, like, why do I think so differently, and I would try to explain it, but I could never put my finger on it well enough to explain it well enough.
Yeah. And so I think for me, I think it just came down to like not viewing everything as having sex be this end goal.
It's almost like viewing everything as not having sex or having sex. That's it.
Yeah. And
how interesting.
And we talked about that and the point of view of like possibly a lot of allosexuals. I think we're learning a lot to not just lump sum everybody, because you can have aromantic allosexuals. You can have sex averse or sex repulsed allosexuals. So not every allosexual is like, give me sex.
But a lot of them are.
But a lot of them are.
Come on, like a lot of them are, and that's fine. Like that's normal for them.
Sure.
I'm using in quotations, normal.
She's using her air quotes.
Air quotes.
All right. So as we discussed, I think in the first or second episode about making out and how that's like foreplay. And not everything has to be foreplay. Not everything has to lead to sex. And so me understanding, all right, we're going to do these things and it's not going to lead to everything. And that's where we talked about that quote of intimacy with expectations oftentimes leads to disappointment. And I'm like, do I want to just continue to be disappointed? Meaning, do I want to continue to have this unnecessary negative energy or negative thoughts to something that can actually be very beautiful, which is like actual normal intimate touch that is non-sexual? Can I allow that to be beautiful in and of itself?
Right. And also, it does seem like me coming out, well, you actually asked, do you think you're asexual to me?
Yeah.
That almost seems like it made it easier for you because it was a clear line pretty well.
And that's where the second part of the question that was related to me was, how did I accept Jesse coming out? Like, what was either my reaction or how did I come to terms with it, I guess? And the thing is like, we have a lot of people in our lives in the queer community. Transgender siblings, transgender brother-in-law, and lesbian sister/sister-in-law, and transgender cousins, and like there's a lot of people in our lives. The list goes
on and on. Yeah, but we're very much so a big family.
Yeah, and we do a lot to support the Pride community or the queer community with attending Pride events and supporting businesses that are, Pride businesses. And so I was already doing a lot of, I feel like I was your asexual wingman. So when she first started thinking that she was demisexual, I would text her like a big list of stuff and say, well, this sounds like you. Like, okay, with demisexuality, like this, and this. Is this relatable to you? Yeah, it's relatable to me. Yeah, I can see that. And so I was the one, I think more so than you, trying to dissect your...
Well, I think that came from you seeing how much confusion and pain I was experiencing and what I was putting myself through, trying to break down these walls and fix myself. Air quotes again, of course. And so that makes sense to me, especially with your analytical brain that you have. It makes sense to me that you would be searching as well, because you don't want me to be in this state any longer. Yeah,
and it wasn't... I want to preface it with, I don't even know if preface it is because that's like beforehand, but I want to, correct that it wasn't in a way of trying to find a fix for you.
I think you wanted me to understand myself, which would then help you understand me.
Well, and there was always this, even in the beginning of our relationship where women wanted to date you, and you know, that was something that in the beginning when we started dating and there was more people, I was like really sure on what I wanted.
Does it make sense now that I wasn't?
Yeah, and I was also fearful of other people. And so it did get to a point, unfortunately, where I was like, if you want to explore this, then I don't know that I'm going to be here still.
Yep. He pretty much gave me an ultimatum, and it was really hard for me because I couldn't sit there and say, no, I'm not gay.
Yeah.
I couldn't sit there and say that because I couldn't tell. I just felt such neutrality that I felt like I needed to break down some walls. Like, what if I am gay and I just don't know it? Like that, it just kept coming up. So when he severed that, one of the relationships, or one of the girls that wanted to possibly date me, it really stunted things, I think. Because honestly, don't you think that maybe by exploring that, I could have maybe figured things out a little bit sooner?
I think you would have known that you weren't gay specifically. You weren't lesbian.
I don't know, though. There's such a but what I'm saying is, if I was put in a situation and felt so neutral about it, but I had a crush on this person, then maybe there would have been more hinting going on. You know what I mean? Because I know you felt really bad for that.
Yeah, and a lot of it came down to, and we'll talk about this actually. This is actually a good segue eventually into the topic, because we're not done answering questions yet, but about triggers. And I was at a very insecure, unhealthy place after my marriage was ending, that it felt like very threatening for me to lose this person that I was like, we are meant to be together. We are that soul bonded, like soulmate situation. And I know that you know that. So I'm confused at why you are wanting to like test the waters elsewhere.
Right.
But we also didn't know each other that long. So it wasn't like we were around each other for years and I'm like, this is something that you really don't know about yourself and you should really explore that. So you're sure. It was more so of like everything was new. You had everyone coming out of the woodworks wanting to date you.
Oh yeah.
Like everybody.
Give me a break.
Like everybody.
You were like, pick me, choose me.
Yeah, I was doing some Grey's Anatomy. So anyway.
Is that an old person reference now?
I don't know. I mean, it's been going on for like 20 years. Who knows?
Anyway, the way Skylar was behaving, it could come off very red flaggy. We'll just be honest. Like it seemed a bit possessive, I would say, and controlling to a degree.
But now I'm a big green flag.
Yes, a big green flag. And I knew that I knew I didn't want to lose you. So I halted whatever was going on. And yeah, the rest is history.
So as far as accepting Jesse, like I said, I already had like such a love for the queer community and an understanding. And I had been doing a lot of research into demisexuality and eventually asexuality. And so when she told me, it wasn't this thing of like dread or like, I need to figure it out. It was more so, I think, even excitement that you finally knew. It sounds weird to say what you are, because that sounds...
Yeah.
I mean, you're a human, but...
Yeah, my sweatshirt says human.
Yeah, which is a Dodie reference, because that's a Dodie sweatshirt.
I think that's a young person reference, maybe.
Yeah.
Dodie. I wanted to say that when you looked at me in the car and said, maybe you're asexual, I feel like looking back now, it was like I just threw a towel in and said, fine, you caught me. Because I feel like I looked at you, just staring at you, and I was like,
okay.
Am I? Maybe I am.
Yeah.
You know, like just defeated totally defeated. Because I can't tell you how many times I was like, okay, I'm demisexual, but like, I'm not asexual, okay? I so many different times in the last year. So
Yeah.
just really interesting how
And
that can work out.
Well, and that's even why we even started going down the sub-labels of the pan-romantic, because first it was like demi-romantic, but then it's like, well, I don't know that you necessarily need to have an emotional connection first to feel romance. So it's more like
It's up for debate on that,
Yeah,
but
that one's
I'm definitely pan, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, I guess it wasn't difficult for me to accept that she is asexual.
It felt like answers.
I will say that where it became a bit more tricky, which we kind of discussed in the last episode, was her level of adverseness to sex.
Yeah, that's...
Even borderline repulsed.
Yep, it's definitely between averse and repulsed.
And I do think that that's still a hard thing for her to navigate or come to terms with.
It is. And somebody did leave a comment or send a message that said something like they feel when they're in the act of sex that it feels confirming to them in the same way. Almost like, I know I am asexual, but sometimes I'm like, am I like really that asexual? Like, am I? And then that happens and you're like, I am. Oh my gosh, I'm so asexual. And so it's just been an interesting thing to unpack. And I'm sure that it will continue to be interesting.
Yeah, and there are so many people that are reaching out, both men and women that are on the asexual side, that there's just so much pressure and so much anxiety when it comes to sex. And, you know, the one thing that I think is important is for you to really acknowledge and understand that your partner has that anxiety potentially, but probably most commonly that anxiety to, I guess, like give in or to participate.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm just going to say it very loud and clear. You should not be having sex if you do not want to be having sex.
Yes.
It's not okay. It's just not. So don't have sex if you don't want to have sex.
No is a complete sentence.
Right. Yes.
And we'll get more into that in the next episode, which is the episode on starting over.
Yeah.
The final part of this question, which seems to, I think these questions are going to be a whole episode almost.
No.
So how did Jessie handle, or how did Jessie's friends and family handle her coming out to them? Because there's a lot of people that are afraid to come out to even their partner, or even it's like if they put it into a word, then it like solidifies it. So if I say it out loud, it's true. And if I tell people it's true, and what does that mean?
Yeah.
I wish that we could say that the responses from the get-go were great.
Yeah. The thing is I know better than to just think that people don't know better until they do. Okay. And then after they do know better, that's when I feel like a bit of judgment can come in on my end towards them. Like, come on, you know better now. When I first figured this out, I think I started telling people, well, I told a few people, like, gosh, within hours of being like, ding, ding, ding. I don't know if that was the best move because I was so fragile.
And I don't think that you had yet a really good understanding of exactly where you were and what it meant to you.
Well, all the layers.
Yeah.
All the layers that go into being asexual, honestly. Like, yeah, okay, you experience little to no sexual attraction. It doesn't stop there. There are so many layers. So here I was trying to tell close family and friends about this and trying to hodgepodge it together pretty much. And it was really difficult. And unfortunately, there was a lot of confusion. A lot of people have always thought that Skylar and I were super sexually active because we are very flirty and touchy and lovey and affectionate. And so they're like, yeah, but you and Skylar are way sexual. And I'm like, but we're not. Which was interesting to be like, everyone associates a good relationship with sex. That's it.
Yeah.
And so I think it was mind-blowing to them when I was like, no.
Because there would be comments like, are you guys still having sex every day? And
Yeah,
it's like
every day.
It's been like 5 years in, and we're like,
that hasn't happened for 5 years. But they all thought that. So I think it felt confusing to a lot of people. And then so many people don't know what being asexual means. So for instance, someone very close to me that may or may not be my mom, shout out to Mom. I don't know if she's going to listen to this, but I think she was the one that said, so you like women?
So you're just going to have sex with women now?
Something like that. And I was like, no. I mean, women are great. Yes. But no, Mom. It means I am not sexually attracted to anybody. And she's like, not even Skylar? Oh,
especially.
No. and she's like, oh no. Are you going to stay together? Like, this was honestly the pretty generic response from a lot of people. Is Skylar okay? And then is something going to happen with you and Skylar?
I will say, though, that there is not a great success rate in marriage with allo and ace couples. So I can see why people could say that.
But they don't know that.
But they don't know that.
They don't know that.
They just think if there's no sex, then you can't
this
be
is what I
married
think.
anymore.
I think that I tell them I'm asexual, and then they instantly imagine me and Skylar in separate corners, and I am just cold and dead eyes, and he is just crying, I want sex and I can't have it.
The reality, though, is that I can hardly get her off of me.
Yeah.
When she's asleep. I get my 8-inch sliver of the queen mattress, and she gets the rest.
But I don't even use the rest.
I know. And then sometimes I'm like shoving her over. I'm like, or I'll be like, let me tuck you in over here.
It's true. He does. He's like, okay, so we're saying goodnight. And I'm like, yes.
I'm like, because I'm about to fall off the bed.
Anyway, back to the whole thing. I did get some pretty poor reactions. I will say there was a lot of not understanding. There was a lot of me having to educate with the education that I barely was getting and
when
having.
you were in a great headspace to educate.
No, I was, like I said before in previous episodes, I was a mess, and so I was having to educate while being a mess. But I needed people to understand. And I also needed, for me, I am once I'm in, I'm in. And so I needed to really own that, and I'm still working on that. So I did feel like it was important for me to say a lot, I'm asexual. I'm asexual. I'm asexual.
Owning it, talking out loud, and owning it.
Right. And that might not be the path for everyone, and that's okay. So I also realized that it's kind of, you kind of see some predators. I know I don't want to sound bad, but on both sides, it's like people now see Skylar.
Oh, yeah. Well, and we talked about that in one of the episodes.
Yeah. People now see Skylar as, is he going to need to get those things out elsewhere? Giving you this interesting look. And I'm like, no.
Like putting 3 fingers up and saying, I volunteer as tribute.
Pretty much, yeah. Or people looking at me like, Jessie doesn't know. She doesn't know yet what it feels like to be with somebody. So it's kind of an interesting thing. After educating people to the degree I could, though, I do think that there are some that are still confused. My dad, he's very, very supportive, of course. He tries to be so happy and so supportive, but He still just has a hard time wrapping his head around it. He doesn't completely understand. He accepts it. He's just like, I don't understand how that's possible, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So overall, it was a learning curve.
Yeah.
To sum it up.
So, with that sum up, this episode is about triggers. And we discussed, some of the early parts of the relationship with me maybe coming out of a relationship that I didn't deem healthy, and a lot of that, and Jesse also coming out of a relationship. You end up having baggage, if you will, and part of that baggage is triggers. So we kind of want to discuss old triggers and new triggers, and
the difference between the two,
and handling them.
Right. So I know that you have a story for an old settled trigger.
An old settle. Back in my day.
Yeah, pretty much.
So when Jesse and I first got together, we were having a house party, if you will.
With just 4 people.
Not that kind. There was no fish bowl involved for keys. But I was trying to find... Well, Jesse will oftentimes switch what she will or will not consume based off of the ingredients. Now, we're both vegan, so we already know that part of it, but sometimes she'll be like, no oil, sometimes she will. And so I was trying to find this particular syrup, if you will, to make drinks. And I was like, I was on the phone with her, and she was trying to entertain the guests that were there.
I had people talking.
And she had people talking to her.
Left and right.
And I was trying to read the ingredients to see, if she was against Red 40. And
which is really sweet of you.
And she was like, right now, I really don't give a fuck.
It was so bad. I'm sorry to laugh, but I think now looking back, we can laugh, right?
And I was spending 10 minutes reading the different ones, trying to find whatever it was that she wanted, because she had one drink in Sacramento one time that she really liked, and we had to remake that one for her, which had specific ingredients. And so here I am trying to be thoughtful and find what to get her, and that was her response.
I said, you know what? I really don't give a fuck. That's what I said, right?
Yeah.
And it just
I just went, okay.
Well, yeah, no, you went. It was like, okay. Okay. And I don't even, did I realize?
No. I got back to the house, and I went into the pantry. And I started crying.
He had himself a cry.
I broke down. And because I was like, here I am trying to be thoughtful. And your response to me was basically who gives a fuck? Get your ass back here.
I don't care what you're doing.
I don't care.
Yeah. And it's so hard because it wasn't meant to be rude at all. There was a lot going on around me. And I didn't know that my voice came off as sternly as it did, but it did. And it reminds me of that picture of me putting my finger up.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll post that, what we're talking about, so that you can get it. But it literally, this picture would look like I'm saying, right now,
don't talk to me.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. Yeah. So
and so it triggered me because here I was thinking I was being this thoughtful person. And I was in this, previous marriage for a long time where I felt not appreciated. And all of a sudden, it hit me, and it was a trigger, and I broke down.
It pulled him back to the marriage that he was in, yes.
And so that was the first trigger that I had. The other one wasn't so much a trigger as much as it was you could just tell how unhealthy I was in a place of coming out of a relationship and going into a new one.
I need to rewind and say,
yes.
You were in the pantry crying. It was a bigger pantry. It wasn't like this little tiny closet.
Yeah.
But he was in there, and I got back, and I went in there, and I felt so bad. I think I probably started crying too.
I think so.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I didn't mean it like that at all. I'm so sorry. I can be quite passionate in my voice. So it did get taken care of quite quickly, but that shocked you.
It did.
It shocked you.
I'm not one who responds or reacts like in that way typically. And so it was really out of nowhere. Another time, and I actually cried on this other time too, was Jessie had some friends over that she already knew them, and this was my first time meeting them. And after the friends left, I was like, was I okay? Did I embarrass you? And she's like, what are you talking about?
I was so confused. And
I was like, did I act, appropriately in front of your friends? Was I okay? Or did I embarrass you? If I did, I'm sorry. And she's like, no.
You were great.
You were great.
Yeah, you were great.
She's like, why would you even think that? And I'm like, well, because
he was convinced that he was the reason that they didn't have friends in his previous marriage, and all sorts of other things that go into him thinking that he had to double check with me to make sure I didn't embarrass him.
And I got emotional on that time too. And I think that was like the beginning of me realizing like just how much healing that I needed to do. And it's not even from my previous relationship either. It's both like things that my parents have said growing up, and I've talked to my parents about that stuff and cleared that up as well. But
had you ever even thought of triggers before you experienced that pantry one?
Nope.
Like, it's the craziest thing. And I don't know if I had either until my marriage ended.
And I don't think we really knew what they were until we started calling them triggers, which now that there's a lot of information out there on triggers and how to handle triggers and stuff like that.
Right. I think the biggest thing, the reason we're talking about old ones versus new ones is that you can start to spot them a lot easier when they start happening. And so you don't spiral too much with ones that you are used to or can recognize.
Well, and it's even so much of like me joking around and saying, please, like Jessie saying, are you going to make me one too? And I'm like, please. And it's like, holy shit, World War.
It's true. Yeah. Meaning he's saying
you can have a trigger.
You could say please if you want something. Like, and I'm like, excuse me,
Dad.
I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't.
I didn't know that I needed your fucking and I'm like, oh.
The picture with the finger up.
And I'm just like, holy shit. Like it's crazy that you could be in the best mood as a couple and just one eye roll, one look, one word can change the rest of the day. It's
like dynamite went off. And for me, when I'm experiencing something like that, it's like, logically that it is ridiculous, but emotionally you are shot. Like it feels so real. There's this tiny, tiny, tiny little logical voice back there that's saying, no, it's okay. But then the emotions are at a 10. And it just puts you right back into that place. And it's crazy. It feels so hard.
And then it goes to I should just be alone. Right. You should just be with someone else who's not doing this.
So should we go into new triggers?
I guess, what do you remember? I mean, there's probably, I think I've triggered you 1,000 times more than you've triggered me.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you have any like specific ones from the old triggers that you want to bring up.
Well, but from the old ones?
Yeah.
No,
Or do you want to just move to like the new asexual triggers?
Yes, I think we should move in that direction.
So I think what we're trying to get to with these triggers is as part of like being in a healthy relationship where there's communication and, you know, trying to rebuild a foundation when a partner has come out as asexual, and realizing that sex may or may not happen. And if you had sex as like part of your foundation, like how do you rebuild the relationship? And again, we'll get more into that in the next episode of starting over, but you have to understand that when you start over or as you start over, it's important to know that there are triggers and why, and how to handle them appropriately, and not assume that like we're past those triggers.
No, okay. So the thing is that the old triggers, you're used to them. They're kind of easy now. They're easy to spot. They're easy to deal with. And you can be like,
shut up.
Yep. And it's
like, I'm sorry, Dad. I'm like, really? I'm not your dad. Fuck off.
We have a lot of F-bombs this episode. Sorry.
This episode brought to you by the letter F.
Yes. But with new ones, with something that you haven't experienced before.
Well, let me say this too. When we talked about like not putting our best self forward, Jesse and I have a very healthy relationship when it comes to like telling the other person to fuck off or shut up or whatever. And so
in a joking way, never in an aggressive way.
Yeah. Like I'll be like, bitch, stop it. And it doesn't like, it's not like a serious thing. And she'll even say that to me. Like she'll call me a bitch. And so it can be tricky, especially in our relationship where that's like normal, to then it's like, I'm like, shut up. And she's like, excuse me. And I'm like, oh shit.
Yes, because if he is responding to me in that way, like when a trigger has happened at the beginning of a trigger or in the middle of a trigger, it does not go over well because my mind is back in a place that is sinking fast. So the one that recently happened that was probably the worst of the worst, I'd say. I was in a really good mood. What was this, 2.5 weeks ago?
Yeah,
3 weeks ago?
Probably 3 weeks, maybe.
Yeah. I was in a really good mood. We had just put the kids to bed. I came skipping down the stairs pretty much. And I was in the kitchen and I called Skylar an ass or something, but I was laughing. And you said something along the lines of, are you being serious? And I was like, no. And he goes, well, I don't know. And I was like, I'm happy. Can't you tell I'm happy? He's like, I can't tell what you are, meaning I can't tell the mood you're in. And instantly I was like, what do you mean? You don't know me well enough right now? You don't know me well enough to know that I'm happy? Can't you see that I'm happy? Why can't you see that I'm happy? You can't see that I'm happy because you feel disconnected? Is that what it is? You feel disconnected because we're not having sex? That's what it is, isn't it? You feel disconnected. You don't know me anymore at all because we're not having sex.
And I'm just like, holy shit, calm your tits. Like, you are making the biggest mountain out of nothing right now.
That's how he responded. And I was like, this is not nothing. This is bad. This is bad. What am I supposed to do? I can't give you the connection that you need. You can't even tell if I'm in a good mood or a bad mood. That's really bad.
Like not having sex has brought us back now to where you don't even know if I'm happy. Like you know nothing about me now because we're not having sex. And I'm just like,
it was absolute. It was unhinged. I was unhinged.
I'm like looking around for like the hidden cameras to be like, you've been punked. I'm like looking for cue cards. Like, what should I say next? Because I'm clearly, this is not good.
Right. And I think you can tell now looking back at that. I mean, I was heavily triggered because I feel so heavily right now that I am not able to give you what you need. Yeah.
So you're already quote unquote less than.
Right. So it didn't stop there, unfortunately. It started off with that. And then it like led into another trigger. I think there were 3 different things.
Trifecta trigger.
It was so bad. We came downstairs and he was like, he was like, don't be stupid. This is stupid. And I was like, oh, so really? My feelings are stupid now. You think I'm stupid? You think it's stupid that I'm feeling this? And then he said something like,
I thought we were past this.
I thought we were past this. Oh, so now I can't express myself.
Yeah, now I have to just be over it. I can't ever feel this way ever again.
Yeah, it was.
And I'm like, oh my gosh.
It was so unhinged. But the thing that's so sad is that when it's happening, it feels so real. You literally feel like everything's ending.
But there was another thing, because the look on my face when I had said like something, I was like, it was almost like are you like, my look was like, you're dumb.
Yeah, he looked at me like I was so dumb for having this triggering moment. But the thing is that we didn't even see it as a trigger yet.
Because I felt like so confident in where we were as a couple with like her asexuality and how things were going. And I didn't care about like sex not happening or whatever. So I was like, we good.
Yeah, so he can be feeling all those things and confident, but then on the other side where I am, everything is a black hole sometimes.
Or she'll read a post, or a comment will be made, or something happens, and it just makes her be like, I should be alone. It's the end of the world. It's the end of the world. You're going to leave me. You're going to get sick of this. You're going to want a divorce and all this stuff.
Yep.
And the look at my face was just like, are you dumb? Like, why would I do that?
That's crazy. Like literally looking at me like I'm crazy.
She's like, do you understand the look that you just gave? And I'm like,
he just needed a shovel, guys. It was so bad.
It's almost like on Elf when she's like, close your eyes, cover your eyes, get out. And he like runs into the door because he's like,
yeah.
So
yeah,
like,
I can see that.
I'm just like, I don't know what to do anymore.
So the sad thing is that here I am just drowning in this black hole abyss. And Skylar,
instead of life jackets, I'm just handing her rocks.
Yes, he is. And I am just losing my mind. I'm sobbing at this point. And feeling so uncomfortable in my own skin, and I'm just, and then it starts to break down a bit, where it starts to.
Well, then it's I need you to not be around me right now. I need to like, and that scares me to death.
Yeah, I do say I need some time by myself right now. I need it. I need you to not be by me right now.
It is the reason it scares me to death is because I can keep calm. Like there is not a lot in this world that I can't keep calm with. And so I feel like if I'm there, I can try to keep calm and be like, it's not that bad. And so when she's like, I need time away from you, I'm like, but then you're going to let your brain talk to you.
And that's exactly what happens next. It's a cycle. And so the next part of that cycle is I force him to not be by me because I feel like a lunatic pretty much. And then I turn it back on myself. And I think, wow. Skylar's so lucky. And I even say this to him.
Yeah.
Skylar, you're just so lucky. You're just so fucking lucky, aren't you? That you get to have a wife that just freaks out of nowhere. Oh, and the cherry on top now is that I'm asexual and you get to deal with that too. Wow. I should just be alone. And you can go find someone else and I should just be alone because, well, I'm never going to be able to give you what you need and then you won't have to deal with me anymore. So that's it.
And what is the biggest thing that I hate that you say?
It's that you're dealing with me.
Yeah, when she starts using that dealing with comment, it like upsets me internally to no end.
Does it upset you because you know that there's history there with me and people saying, oh, how do you deal with Jesse?
Well, it's not only that, but it's that you are worth so much to me, not monetarily, but you.
This just got weird.
Well, I do have life insurance policy on you, so I guess some of that is true. But you are worth so much more than whatever you're saying that I'm not dealing like. You feel like it's an insult. It's such a negative thing. Like, you have to deal with me. I'm like, I don't deal with you. It's not this thing where I'm like dealing with you. I love you.
You say, I get to be with you.
I get to be with you.
Yeah, that's what you say.
I get to spend this time with you fighting. I get to be around you. I'm not dealing with you.
Something I just realized is that, on this podcast and through the episodes, we talk about really serious things.
This is more of a lighthearted, like, even though we're talking about something serious, but
yeah, no, but what I wanted to say is that Skylar and I, not to put us on some high mountain or high horse here or something, but we really don't fight a lot ever. I don't even know if would you even consider those fights, or am I just fighting with you?
I'm like a firefighter, like trying to put out the flame, and she's just like, "Where's the gas? I am out."
Yeah. But these situations don't happen frequently. No. And so when they do happen, it feels like the end of the world. It feels so awful.
Well, and there's the old saying, like, you can only, like, fire makes fire or something like that. Like, if you pull yourself away from a situation, then the fire will not continue to burn. So if you're continually throwing fuel on it by arguing or fighting together, like butting heads, it's always going to be like blazing.
Right.
But all it takes is one person to say, we are not at a good place right now to continue this conversation. I'm going to remove myself, not because I don't love you or I'm not leaving you. I just know that right now we're not being productive. So I'm going to step away. And when we have both calmed down, then we should have this conversation together again without the fire.
Yeah. I just felt like, we kind of have highlighted a lot of issues, so I wanted to make it clear it's not like we're having issues constantly.
And that's not to say that, like, if you are,
you might go through a period where you're having a lot of issues that need to be sorted.
And, that's your relationship, and that's something that we hope that, through hearing us talk about, what these are and what they are to us,
right?
You might be able to recognize those in your own relationships.
And we just want to be as real as possible and as honest as possible, because we really believe that that's what's going to help the most with the discussion in general.
Is there any other new triggers we want to discuss? You want to air to the public? I'm trying to think of if there was any more. Jesse has a funny one, I think.
Yeah, it's semi-funny. I mean, it's like 90% silly, like honestly so ridiculous, and 10% like, makes me a little uncomfy. It's like a baby, the starting of a trigger, of what could be a trigger, but I squashed it, I guess, maybe. So we're at the lodge that we were staying at, and we're by, I don't know, the arcade or something.
Oh.
And there's this lady that I didn't see, and Skylar says, "It's so funny how you start to just recognize people." And I'm like, "What do you mean?"
Like the lady from room 421.
Pretty much is what it sounded like. He's like, "Oh, just the lady over there with the blonde hair that has it straight most of the time." Something like kind of descriptive. I'm like,
no, it was curly.
Whatever you said, it was like, it's curly most of the time. I was like, nope, never noticed that one. And then he was like, yeah, she's on the 4th floor. And I was like, cool, bro. Cool, bro. We're on the 4th floor too. So I don't know if that helps or hurts the situation, but
I'm like, I've seen her like a dozen times.
Yeah. And what did I say later on? I was like, I referenced it was a callback.
Yeah, and I think I did roll my eyes, or I said, "You're dumb."
And I'm like, I know, I'm being silly, and it's fine. So sometimes, like, that could have gone bad, actually.
Yeah,
like it could have gone bad depending, but I think it got squished in its early phases where it was only 10%.
I was rolling my eyes so hard because we notice people together.
We do,
and we'll make comments like, oh, did you see her? She was cute. Did you see? And I'm like, yeah, she was wearing like the suspenders and, you know, she had curly hair and Jesse's like, yeah, and she had really cool earrings. And
Yeah, we point out like cool things about people, I guess. I don't know.
And so I was a bit surprised that I was the only one that noticed her because I literally ran into her like 6 times around.
I know, but she didn't. There was nothing noticeable.
I smiled at her 5 times.
Now this is getting bad.
No. So I'm just like, oh, well, I guess you didn't notice her, but that's fine.
Oh, and then I said, oh, I didn't notice her, but I definitely noticed the da-da-da-da-da, like said some other random person, you know, just to be silly or whatever. So, I mean, when it's possible, you can squash it if possible, if it's, you know, in that realm, still that 10% realm.
And I think part of that 10% issue though is like that insecurity of like, oh, well, he's noticing people. And what if they like make eye contact and there's a spark? You know, we talked about that in one of the last episodes about like going to karaoke or going out or whatever, being somewhere and her being like this wingman in her head about like envisioning me like dating someone, which I have zero part of. And so I think it's like that small insecurity of like, well, how is he noticing her and why is he noticing her?
Yeah, is he like sexually attracted to her? Like what is going on here? I was going to say it was interesting being at the pool.
Oh,
because in my brain, and this is probably not right, like in my brain, I think all these women in their bikinis and stuff, I just imagine allosexual men just fawning over all these women in their bikinis, okay? And so I did make a comment during the trip. I was like, this is so interesting that people are just, I think, sexualized all the time. And then they're in bikinis and being sexualized, possibly, likely, you know? That happened on the cruise too. We went on a cruise a little while ago and it's just an interesting thing. I have this new lens that I'm looking at everything in. Like it all makes sense. And the hard thing though is it's not like before it's like I didn't even notice. Before it was like I was just blind to anything.
Yeah, it was just like, whatever.
Right. But now that I know that I'm asexual and that you're allosexual, it's like I am on the lookout for what you're probably thinking. It's exhausting.
Well, and I'm not wearing dark sunglasses, so it's not like I can like pretend I'm not looking.
Yeah, and
I'm not actually looking, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, not when you've got 6 kids, at least. When you're like, what are you looking at? I'm trying to see if one of our kids is drowning.
Or who pooped in the pool.
Yeah, who pooped in the pool.
Yeah. Anyway, so back to the triggers and the biggest thing that can happen that will be the most helpful if your partner is experiencing a trigger and you recognize it, that it looks like a trigger, acts like a trigger, feels like a trigger, then the biggest thing you can do is validate and show empathy.
Yeah.
So Skylar, let's hear how that sounds.
So one would be like, did what I say make you upset because X, Y, or Z? I'm sorry that what I said was hurtful. I didn't mean to upset you, and I can see how that would.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, really, it's trying, and I will say, for the longest time, it has been very hard for me to not just, it's human nature to be defensive, to like self-preserve. Mm-hmm. And so I'm always actually saying, that's not what I meant.
He's always saying that's not what I meant. And then
that's not how I meant it.
Yeah. And then I say, you can't see how that's hurtful. No, I don't see how it's hurtful. And then I'm like, It's just, it can go in circles at this point.
So a lot of times it's easy to then be like, can you tell me why what I said was so upsetting? Like if you go from being defensive, because I'm not using it as a point of like throwing it back at you.
Yeah, you're not like trying to get...
It's help me understand why that was upsetting to you. Well, can you see that like by you saying that's dumb, that I should just be past it when I am literally reminded every day about this and that and why it's not dumb. And I'm like, okay, yes, I can see that for you, like it's such a very personal negative thing. Like for me, people being like, well, you're not having sex, like that's not a personal attack against me.
I think it's a matter of being in curiosity is what we're getting at here too.
Yeah. And so just understanding like that you need to like just drop your guard and just acknowledge and understand why it hurt their feelings or why they don't like the language that they don't like. If you make a comment like why vanilla ice cream versus rocky road with sprinkles, or chilling in the parking lot, like why those can be hurtful and why the language needs to change and why you need to try to put yourself in their shoes to find out, even if it is absurd in your mind, like
know that your partner is honestly in the depths of hell with a trigger. Like it feels like suffocation. Like it's such a drowning feeling.
Yeah, you really gotta read the room with two people in it and really be like, okay, this is real. This is not a drill, and let's handle this better. And
let's be empathetic. Let's be validating. Let's be curious.
Let's not gaslight. Let's not, make them feel bad for. I think that's one of the biggest things too, is like not making you feel bad for having a trigger or having an emotion.
Yeah.
Like that's the issue. Men have that issue a lot, even in their own selves, is like feeling bad or like you can't show emotions or you can't cry. And so, there's a lot of unhealthy stuff around like degrading emotions or weaponizing or villainizing emotions instead of feeling them and talking through them and then resolving them.
Yeah.
So all that to say, triggers are normal. They're going to happen.
They're tricky.
They're messy. They're like something that you will need to work through. And it's normal. And like just be there, be thoughtful, and try to get past them, not in a sense of like I thought you were past it, but try to work through the emotions to then come out better for it.
Right. And if you think that whatever is happening is so ridiculous, try to refocus on the fact that your partner's definitely in a painful cycle in their brain.
And I don't know if this is, a universal thing, but it's bad advice nonetheless. There was always this thing of like, as soon as you're like in a fight with your partner, you should just strip down naked, because then you're going to realize, you're just going to start laughing and realize that why are we even fighting? That is not good advice. Using laughter.
Wait.
Yeah.
What is, to me, in my brain, when anyone has ever said that, the reason why I think that it seems like good advice is because everything's wobbly everywhere. But is the actual advice meaning that you'll strip down and then you'll like want to have like sex?
No, I think that some people might think that, but really it's more to just distract from the issue.
Exactly. Wiggly.
It's not, but it isn't healthy because you're not actually resolving the issue. Like it may step you out of like the fire, but it's not.
No.
But it's really like, okay, we're not fighting anymore. Okay, bye. You don't actually talk about it.
There is no way in hell that if I was experiencing a trigger and you just started stripping your clothes off, I would give you that finger from the picture that we're gonna post. I would be like, what the F are you doing right now?
I'm like, close your eyes, kids. Dad's getting naked. Mom's mad.
No, I would be so much more triggered. I'd be like, put that thing away. What are you doing? But no, it is something that is said a lot. I mean, I don't know. It was said to us a lot, apparently.
I think that we as a society just want to like not be in uncomfort. And so we're going to try to use whatever we can to like make the uncomfort stop.
Yeah.
But then we don't actually end up talking about the uncomfort.
Right. And recently I've had this shift in mindset of almost like bring on the discomfort, because I know that I will likely be better afterwards.
Yeah.
I will have gotten something from the discomfort. So I'm actually trying to learn to embrace it for a time. It's not good to sit in it for too long, but it is good to sit in it for a bit, depending on what the situation is, of course.
Yeah. So there you go.
There you go.
That is our thoughts on triggers.
I feel like it was a bit scrambly. What do you think?
I don't care.
I
don't fucking care.
Oh.
No, so the next episode will most likely be on starting over. And if you have any questions regarding starting over specifically, please reach out to us on the different platforms of social media, or you can email us at aloandacepodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, you can direct message us on any of the platforms, like Skylar said. We're happy to talk.
Yeah, and if you have any other questions, let us know as well.
Yeah, it's been good tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Till next time.